IBT Online is live. I
All
just got the
right,
notification. I guess we're live.
perfect. All right, perfect. Sounds great. How's it going, Andrew?
Not too bad, Chris. How have you been? It's been a while since I've seen you.
Yeah, it's been a little time, but very happy to be here today, and very happy to, of course, be speaking today about localized websites and effective international sales. So I guess to kind of go ahead and get us started. Yep. So today our topic is localized websites and effective international sales. So speaking today, my name is Christopher Chavez, Business Development Manager at IBT. Andrew, if you'd like to introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. My name's and I'm happy to be here. Happy to be presenting in the live stream format and on LinkedIn. My name's Andrew Lawler with IBT Online, Business Development Manager based in Michigan, Grand Rapids, Michigan, and yeah, happy to be. I guess as Chris will be mentioning a little bit, talking about website localization and how best practice can be utilized in the online world for international sales.
All right, perfect. Sounds great. All right, well, so as Andrew mentioned, we will go ahead and sort of kick it off talking about website localization specifically. So I guess to go ahead and start, I guess it would make sense for, especially for our viewers that may not be extremely familiar with website localization or programs, maybe just going ahead and talking a little bit about what website localization really entails. So I guess to go ahead and kick it off, Andrew, if you want to, maybe go through some of what features website localization can bring and maybe some of the benefits as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. I think it's a broad topic, and maybe we can just dissect it piece by piece. When it comes to localization, generally a pretty newer topic as far as what best practice looks like in the online space, and what we see as best practice in the online space. Ultimately, localization is driven by the 192 Google search engines that are around the world, that are placed around the world. Um, without a search engine that's based in Canada, a search engine that's based in South Africa, a search engine that's based in Russia, you would be able to use your us.com website to reach your audiences in global markets. But unfortunately, because of these many different search engines that allow for relevant search results in each market, you now have to dedicate your resources towards a localized website, a localized presence for each of your top export markets. So, I mean, localization, when you think about, creating localized websites, localized marketing, one of the first things that you might think about is translations, and translations are just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to localization, really. Localization involves, creating an entire website, again, creating a digital real estate for those top markets in the shape of a website, and marketing has things like translations, but they are more than just a Google Translate plugin. For us, localization is going above and beyond the translations by including the cultural nuances, the certain industry lingo that is relevant to that. If you have a Chilean, if you have a South American target audience, and you're in the automotive industry, Chile might have very
Yep.
different lingo and industry lingo as opposed to in Spain. And so these are things that you have to keep wary when you're looking at the culture, but also the relevancy per country. You can look at the most important part, for us ultimately is the SEO optimization. As many of the marketers that are listening to this call might understand how SEO optimization works for the current US website. It's going to be the exact same process, but built for those target markets internationally. So, being able to speak to that
Absolutely.
individual search engine is going to be very key.
Yeah, definitely, Andrew, and 100% agreed. I guess kind of go off that as well. When we look at localization, of course, we look at a company's target persona, some of the competitors in the market as well. So, like you mentioned, it's really all encompassing. So of course, not only having that local language and that dialogue, but also really having that background research that goes into that optimization. Of course, making sure that the correct background work is done, making sure that those calls to action. So we work with clients that are of course B2C, B2B, B2G. So there's different routes to market. It's really just about figuring out which route to market within that target market makes the most sense, and really setting up the calls to action, setting up the digital real estate, like you mentioned, and of course bringing in that international online marketing too, to really bring in that traffic and engagement, and of course conversions, which is the ultimate goal of having that localized site and really having that effective international sales strategy. All encompassing and definitely a lot of research that goes into it, but of course it's really a way to actually be in front of those customers and in front of those clients, in their market, on their domain, in their language, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely a very key piece to that international strategy. I think it might be a good idea, of course, to really get into some of those benefits as well. And I can go ahead and talk about a couple of them, Andrew. And if you want to jump in and sort of you know of course touch upon some of those as well. But I guess in terms of really some of those
Yeah.
benefits,
Yeah.
one of them, yeah. So one of them, of course, is the ability, as we mentioned, to be found, to be understood, and to really be easy to do business with. So what does this mean? Essentially, of course, having that localized sites within those target markets allow you to be found easier. So you're on their domain, the SEO is done for that market. So it is easier for you to be found, to be understood, of course. As Andrew mentioned, specific markets, whether even if they're both in Spanish, they have certain dialogues and they have certain ways that they may search for the results, certain keyword optimization that needs to be done, and easy to do business with. Again, just having that localized site really leading to that effective international sales strategy. So that's of course really building into that sales and export pipeline, building up any of those partners you may have that are there for your international sales, for your international distribution, and of course building up that brand awareness within that market. Within a market as you're entering, having that correct brand awareness and really being able to touch those clients as well. So yeah, those are just some of the benefits off the top of my head. Andrew, if you want to maybe talk a little bit on that as well, and provide any insight into that.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, ultimately, it's the benefits of building a localized website are really driven, for at least from our view, it's driven from our clients' feedback, interviewing them and
Mhm.
understanding, what they received, what was their real return on investment. Um, and oftentimes, here based in Michigan, I'm talking with a lot of Michigan companies, a lot of Midwestern companies. And for them, their top markets to, build localized sites are in places like Canada and Mexico and Latin America. So for them, brand awareness has been massive. Brand awareness, building trust, building the being known as a global entity within all of these markets has been incredible for them, because when they go to these different trade shows, they go to these trade missions within Canada, Mexico, these top markets where they've already built these websites. They're able to now display and say, "Hey, we have a dedicated resource built just for you. It's in your local language. It's built with a certain
Mhm.
calls to action, whether they have distributors there or not." Um, it is meant for that audience, and it really shows that you are dedicated in throwing resources at your target audience in a very good way. So, brand awareness has been very key for our clients. I think on the other side of things, being able to speak with distributors. We have a lot of clients who have partners in market, and whether they're an office representative, a sales representative, a distributor that's either direct or indirect, being able to nurture that relationship, in an online way, you're able to then give this website as a gift to them to then improve their sales. They're able to sell better because they have now a dedicated website for the Mexican audience, for example, about the Mexican products and services that ultimately are theirs to sell. Um, and then on the other side of things, the last benefit that I guess I'll point out that I see pretty frequently are those that are looking to recruit new partners or recruit new distributors. I think we're hearing a lot right now about the disruptions in supply chain, disruptions in, I guess, hiring, and either domestically or abroad. And sometimes websites can be a pretty effective tool to, get in front of your target audience, your target recruiting audience, whether that be employees abroad or that be distributors abroad. So being able to create landing pages, again, speaking to the search engines and saying, hey, this is what we're looking for, apply here. And there's a lot of success to be had when doing so in an online space.
Yeah, no, definitely. And 100%, we've seen, and we'd be more than happy to share some of the client testimonials and really some of those results. But, we've really seen great results from in terms of a effective international sales perspective, just building out one or two localized websites within those markets. Being able to actually attract clients that you may not have been able to even be on their radar before. Mostly, and a lot of times, and I want to bring it back to something that you mentioned, Andrew, which I think is extremely important, is the fact that there are 192 Google search engines. So, a lot of times what we like to get across is, if you're not on that correct search engine or even on that domain, then it's possible that, through a Google search, you're not even able to be found within that market. You might be in the index, but it might not be until page 50 or so. So in terms of actually being able to be found, actually having that, for example, as you were mentioning, Mexico, having that .mx, having that optimized for the Mexican market, hosted within, of course, the Mexican domain. So really being able to be found on that specific Google search engine is something that we'd like to get across as well. And really, in terms of really having that effective international sales funnel, is a key component to really being able to build that out. And I think that's something that we really like to mention. And as you mentioned, it really is a piece of digital real estate. So you do have that digital real estate, and it is somewhere where, as you mentioned, it can be used for distributors. It can be used to build up your sales. It can be used to, it really comes to what works best with your international sales strategy. And of course, we tell our clients, we work with them. So we say, what are your goals? What are some of those KPIs? And of course, the end goal is usually get those sales. So just working with them to see, what the best strategy may be, and of course, having that localized site to bring that traffic to them as well. So I do think that, those are things very very much worth mentioning. And I think to sort of supplement that, of course, is the international online marketing as well. So I'll go ahead and hand it back off to you, Andrew. But I guess what are sort of your thoughts on, of course, the localized website is the first step, but in terms of really building up that sales funnel, international online marketing is pretty effective as well. So if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about that, some of your thoughts, and what we've seen with our clients as well.
Yeah, it's a really good starting point as far as building the localized site. And Chris, I appreciate you going kind of more in depth as far as what the best practice localized website looks like. And ultimately, yeah, there is a second step. It's impossible for your company, your team to just have these localized websites and hope and pray that the leads are going to be coming to your way at a very efficient way. Ultimately, what is going to help continue to drive more traffic and more engagement, and for these businesses, what's their main goal? Excuse me, to get more conversions on the website, and that's going to be things like international online marketing. So here in the U.S., what do you do to help promote your U.S. website to your U.S. audience? You might be on Facebook, you might be on LinkedIn, you might be on Twitter, you might be putting out Google ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, trying to get in front of your audience. Again, these links all direct back to your website. And ultimately, the process is the same for abroad. When you build a website that's localized and dedicated for the Canadian audience, a website and localized for the Mexican audience, you have to do the exact same. Creating a social media strategy on Facebook and LinkedIn, whatever these top platforms are in these international markets, you have to be posting. You have to be creating content, and you have to be sending traffic back to your websites. because without, I guess, the organic posts, but also the paid posts, it is going to be a slow burning process to really get those websites up and running, and to get those conversions that you're looking for within those markets. So, as Chris mentioned, these are things that IBT Online is here to help with. But at the same time, if you have capabilities, these are things that you need to be looking at absolutely, after the websites go live.
Yeah, no, Andrew, and I think as you mentioned, it's really a great supplementary part, and it's something that and I'd love to share some statistics, but I was looking recently at some of the Hootsuite ones from 2022, and just sort of the rapid growth of social media, not just for B2C or just for recreational use, quote unquote, but also for B2B. So what we've seen is a high rise in B2B companies doing their research, of course, online. So they want to see that localized website. They want to find you on their local social media platforms. And that's something to mention as well. That a lot of times in some of your target markets, there may be different best practices. There may be social media sites that may not be used here. For example, of course, we look at China, for example, which we've done plenty of projects for. And of course, their search engine is different. Baidu and WeChat and Weibo and so those are always things to take into account. And in terms of really building up those effective international sales strategy, it helps, of course, I believe, to know this information, and of course be working with a team that is well versed on internationalization, localization, and of course best practice business development as well. All right, perfect. So I guess, Andrew, do you have any sort of concluding or resounding thoughts, or sort of any highlights about the localization and international sales process?
Yeah, I guess just to wrap things up, I think it's been a good conversation, Chris. It's been good to be on the platform here live on LinkedIn. Ultimately, website localization and international online marketing are here to stay. We saw this increasingly over the pandemic, and obviously moving forward, people are doing more business online, and will be doing more business online as we move forward. Just to say, if you want to learn more, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to have a discussion. We have plenty of information and resources on our website. We have about 800 free resources that are available for our clients and for our prospects and for individuals that are looking to learn more about the environment. So again, if you want to learn more, please reach out to either Chris or myself or anybody from the IBT Online team. We're always here to be a helping hand. Of course, all of these programs here are available for a lot of different step programs across the country. So, you can definitely get some money and reimbursement back just from you building a localized website in international markets. And those are my closing remarks.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Andrew, for hopping on this. And like you mentioned, I think it was a great sort of high-level view into localization. But like Andrew mentioned, if you do have any questions, or if you're looking to find out more about localization, whether it entails, of course, website localization, best practice for SEO optimization, or any international online marketing as well, as Andrew mentioned, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be more than happy to have a conversation.